We acknowledge that Mount Allison University is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship signed centuries ago. We recognize that many of our alumni, students, faculty, and podcast guests live in communities beyond the Mi'kma'ki, across Turtle Island and around the world. As we engage in conversation, reflection, and learning through this podcast, we invite all listeners to reflect on the lands they call home and the Indigenous peoples who have cared for them since time immemorial. As treaty people, we share a responsibility to engage respectfully with this land and with each other, to listen, to learn, and to honor the truths and histories that shape our shared future. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolle de Ste-Croix, and I'm the host of When Ducks Leave the Pond, the Mount Allison Alumni podcast. It is a pleasure for me to welcome to the podcast today Mireille Eagan from the Mount Allison class of 2004. Many of you who are in the art scene, into curating, into Canadian artists, especially East Coast artists, and especially Newfoundland Labrador, will know Mireille Eagan's name. So we are just so pleased to have you here, Mireille. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. And wow, I'm actually surprised people know who I am, so I appreciate that.
So Mireille, let's we start at the beginning at all these things. Tell us about how you became the curator at the rooms in Newfoundland.
It started on a grade 6 tour at the Beaverbrook Art Gallery, of all things, grade 6. And I remember just loving the space of the Beaverbrook Art Gallery. And over time, eventually, my mom pulled me up the front stairs of this intimidating building, and I started working the front desk, and then spent time working in the registrar's office down in the vault. And there
That's
was
before you started university.
Yes, yeah. I knew I wanted to be a curator from the age of 16. I knew it, and it was because I wanted to spend time in the vaults. I wanted to be around artists. I wanted to be in that space of the gallery. And so I went to Manet to study art history. And it was there that I learned that that was the space that I truly loved, the ideas that surrounded art.
Is there a standout moment during your time at Mountie that reaffirmed that you were like on the right career path? Do you have a particular kind of
Oh, gosh. So I mean, it was the classes with Anne Covell. Anne Covell is an excellent art historian, where we really got into ideas, I would say. But there was a moment where I don't know how this happened. I think it was by accident. I was on the dean's list, and I went to the Owens Art Gallery. There was a gathering there, and Mary Pratt was there.
imagine, eh?
Oh my gosh. And I mean, I grew up walking by her house all the time. The first artwork that I ever saw was a Mary Pratt. This is Donna, this striking painting of a woman directly across from me. This was as a young woman that I saw that. And I carried it with me, and I met Mary Pratt. And she was so lovely and wonderful. And that, I don't know. I just really wanted to work with her in some capacity.
Well, I mean, I think anyone who's met Mary Pratt will remember that she was omnipresent in any room, and just the joy she brought to kind of her everyday life that anyone who kind of came into contact with her would know about. So talk to us then a bit about what it was like, because great, you want to be a curator and you're at Mount A and you're getting to meet all these folks. What was the next steps?
I will say I was invited in to Struts. That was one aspect. I was afraid to go in. I was a shy student, and John Murchie met me at the door and said, "Come on in." And ever since then, That's what I've been carrying forward. But the next steps in terms of a career was just being present with John Murchie at Struts. I was able to curate a very small show as part of their Living is Easy series. I started writing about art. I pitched, again, quite bravely, an article to Visual Arts News. It was accepted, worked at Gallery Connection, and then decided to go to Concordia, where I studied art history. And then I don't know how it happened, but I'm really glad it did. I got hired at the Confederation Center Art Gallery
Wow, you've done in Charlottetown.
in Charlottetown. Yeah.
Charlottetown. How did those early experiences shape your sense of what a curator could be?
I would say that I realized that being a curator was a space of being supportive, of listening to artists, of sharing their stories with others, of showing what I truly love too, which is art. Art is such a beautiful way of talking about our culture, ourselves. And I wanted others to share in that joy. So that as a curator, I see myself as a storyteller and I see myself as a listener. And that's what I've carried forward, that invitation.
That invitation, which is really a vision. Now, your exhibitions at the rooms, like Folklore and in Other Panics or Christopher Pratt, The Places I Go, they often, what's been observed, balance Newfoundland's cultural legacy with contemporary voices. How do you, as a curator, how do you navigate representing both tradition and innovation, as you say, by being their voice?
I think that there's an idea about art, and of course, so my role is now curator of contemporary art, which means being with the time. And what we often don't think about is that the present holds the past, and that the idea of art is one that is constantly shifting. So particularly in Newfoundland and Labrador, there's a strong history of craft, of Indigenous knowledge, of ways of sharing culture that wouldn't necessarily be considered fine art. Um, and I think that it's important to talk about that multifaceted story. But I'm in fact inspired by these things that I see and pick up when I'm with artists or when I'm looking at the culture of this place, by which I mean Newfoundland and Labrador. And one is this fascinating story. Guglielmo Marconi, the first individual to send the Atlantic transmission, of course, across from England to Newfoundland. He had this interesting theory that sound never truly dies, that any sound ever made, isn't that fascinating? Any sound ever made continues to exist, just like as part of what is surrounding us. And whether you think that's woo or not, I think it's fascinating to think that that the past is, like I say, is still present. That artists are responding to where they come from, that they're thinking about where we're going, but it's a continuum and a conversation.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. You have a wonderful way of framing things.
Thank you.
Yeah, really cool. Um, Now, another project you did was With Future Possible. So can you tell us a bit about that? And I know that you didn't intend to define an official history, but to kind of open a dialogue. I think that was the whole premise of it. And so looking back, do you feel that this project has succeeded in shifting how people see Newfoundland and Labrador art history? Can you tell us a bit about the project?
I certainly believe it has. And what the project came about because I was researching Newfoundland and Labrador art history before I arrived, of course, as curator. And I realized there was not a single Wikipedia page about the art of this province. And that was fascinating to me. But I was also quite fascinated because really enjoy writing Wikipedia articles as part of this living history. I wrote that page, but I was fascinated by the idea of history as something that is constantly shifting. And that, working in the official, basically the public art gallery for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, which also has a museum, also has archives, I'm fascinated by the form how stories are told, and what history looks like. And so Future Possible pulls upon this statement by a writer called Andy Jones, right, a writer and a performer. And it was the idea, he had a verb tense for how he approached the world and how Newfoundlanders and Labradorians do as well. And it was future possible, possibly horrible. So
And I think many of us remember Andy Jones from. I mean, he's been a performer for a long time.
he's brilliant. And I thought, well, fascinating. So we were coming up on the 70th anniversary of Newfoundland and Labrador joining Canada, and Muskrat Falls was in process. The economic landscape looked dire. And it felt like there was many things. Oil had failed, and it felt like, oh gosh, the future writ large was already terrible. How do we navigate that? And so I looked to artists as the people who told stories, but I also wanted to say the art that happens here matters. And it takes many different forms. So an interview with Christopher Pratt about how he, as the first curator and a prominent artist here, thinks about art here, from memories of previous curators to Andy Jones's wonderful speech, to ideas about the transatlantic slave trade, told from a personal perspective. I wanted people to view themselves as a part of this history, but also to show the value of what was being done here, what is being done here.
And so my next question kind of feeds really well into what we're discussing right now, I think, because curating involves collaboration. I mean, it often does. We can't say always, but it often involves collaboration. And that's not only with the artists, but, focus groups and different institutions. And how have you been able to make these partnerships work so that it informs and even perhaps like challenges your curatorial voice, especially when you're framing narratives like around, say, Indigenous or queer or emerging artists?
I would say humility is a key part of it. Listening, a key part of it. And so recognizing that I am one voice, of course, with my own histories, my own ways of viewing things, and empowering other voices to be a part of this multifaceted conversation that's taking place here. And then in turn, to empower visitors to come in, not only to see themselves reflected, perhaps as members of this province, but also to ask real questions of themselves and how they feel about art, how they think about themselves, what their roles are as citizens. And so my job is to work with the artists, to hear what they're saying, and then to translate it into texts or a layout, the arrangement of works within the space, or exhibitions across all the galleries, to tell a multifaceted story that will help people understand what artists are talking and thinking about, but also their own roles, their own ideas of art, of culture.
Oh, wow. Um, yeah, you've had a really extensive career in such a short time. It's, just doing some research on before this interview. I mean, the list of things you have written and that you have researched and that you have done, um, does it still resonate as much as it did when you were in grade 6 touring the Beaverbrook Art Gallery?
Oh, I'm such a nerd. I am. I Every show I fall in love with, every artist I'm so grateful to know. Every time that an essay is put out or a book is put out, it's terrifying, but it's also a beautiful chance to really work through ideas. Um, so no, I haven't grown tired of it. I think I'm at a space now where I'm really enjoying making space for others, really bringing in others to tell stories at the rooms and work with the space in a way that's meaningful. So I really love it.
Oh,
So that's what I'm doing right now, but a few
it,
more books in the works.
oh, like, can we get a head? Is there a heads up or is that? But not.
I'm in the process of writing a book about, well, Christopher Pratt, who was was a dear friend. In fact, after we curated this exhibition, we went on a number of road trips, or I curated the exhibition. We went on a number of road trips together. And I always thought, I thought he was always like most people do, think his work is cold,
Mhm.
but it's not. It's not. So we went to what he calls places of memory, all the places that are symbolic or meaningful to his personal life. And the book is going to follow those travels. Everything he painted was of a place that meant a great deal to him. And rather than cold, his work is about the privacy of memory, and the respect for the act of painting. And so that's what I'm going to be thinking about, in this book.
Yeah, and it's I've been here a while, and when I think of all the things I'm so thankful for, it's the opportunity to have met so many of the people that you've talked about today, and it just it's wonderful to be talking about them again with you because it brings back kind of that yeah a certain smile, a certain look uh,
Um,
that with the folks that we work with here that are no longer with us. So listen, looking ahead, like I mean, you're like super deeply embedded in Atlantic Canada's art scene. Is there an underrepresented story or maybe like an emerging artist thread in Newfoundland and Labrador that you feel deserves more attention in curatorial projects or in writing?
I have to say, a huge part of my career, whether sitting on juries or even speaking about the arts community to others, and I'm talking about the Atlantic region, not only Newfoundland and Labrador, is people think it's backwards. They think that it's most people. I'm generalizing, but many people consider it to be behind the times of contemporary art, and I don't think it is. I think it has a unique and strong voice, one that is deeply rooted in collaboration, one that is deeply rooted in community. And I see that happening throughout the Atlantic region. Sackville is a wonderful example of that. And so when I talk about this place, I want people to understand that it has its own history, its own narrative, its own way of being that is as valuable and as important as Toronto or Berlin.
Mhm.
Um, but I do believe that we need more infrastructure. We need more people writing. We need more people supporting the arts. We need, I would say, better funding, to be frank, because that's where we falter. Unfortunately, there isn't enough. There isn't enough, ticks on the CV for many people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what we need. But again, though, the Atlantic region is a really good supportive community, though, to build your voice, build your CV.
Well, so maybe let's talk about that for a little while. Um, if if there's someone listening to this podcast who's maybe 16 and they're inspired by what you've said, is there like a kind of a set? I don't imagine that there's a set career path for what you do. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of young grads coming out of Mount Allison who aspire to do what you do. Are there kind of different things that you would suggest to them on how to get there or how to accomplish that and what that might look like for them?
Sackville's a great place to start. I've got to say that the curatorial program, the museum and curatorial study program that I wish I'd had when I was there. I'm so happy for that. It's wonderful, but it's about being present. It's about going to openings. It's about writing. It's about helping out at the local artist run center. It is about working in the vault, or working the front desk at first, and then slowly becoming known, slowly becoming a part of the community, slowly building your CV. And then you might start low, you might start it as a curatorial position in a place that would be small. I started out at School Days Museum in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I loved it.
Yeah.
But eventually trust. I think that you'll land But it is about community in the process, and it is about humility, it is about listening, it is about support.
What type of mentorship do you think someone who is starting out in the field or studying in the field, what type of mentorship do you think they need?
Oh, beautiful point too. Mentors are very important. Reach out. People are often very happy to be asked for advice. They want to help. They want the next generation of curators and artists to succeed, and are often very excited for the conversations that they'll have with those individuals. Is one of my most favorite parts of my job. Is talking with emerging curators and learning from them, to be frank, as well. So I know there's a mentorship program with Manet, and I know that there are just the act of reaching out, asking. That's the way to do it, honestly.
Well, in fact, you have been one of our mentors.
I have, and I've loved it.
Well, we will. You're still on the list, of course. So the next time we have someone studying curatorial studies, you can expect a call from us. But I guess I say all that to say thank you. We've been so lucky. Our students have been so lucky to have access to so many incredible mentors. I often say that there's no excuse for a place like Mount A not to be able to offer to every single student the opportunity to be mentored by an alumnus in their field. Our alumni are always ready. And that's, again, been a big part of my job and a big part of my joy doing those matches. So thank you for having done it. We really appreciate it, Mireille. So as we kind of wind up our chat today, it's gone 30 minutes has gone a little fast, but as it always does, tell us about kind of what the next time I interview you in 10 years on this podcast, what does that look like for you? What are your aspirations for your career at this point in your life?
Ooh. I mean, it's funny to say, like, I think in a way I'm exactly where I want to be. So I think, I view myself as in a period of assessment and thinking things through about what that next step is, particularly after Future Possible. But what I do want to see is I want to be able to feel that I have supported the next generation of curators, to be frank.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the communities of the Atlantic region well supported, and I want to have had some part in that. And I that is that it sounds kind of hokey, but it's true. It's
No,
true.
it doesn't sound hokey at all. Not at
And I
all.
also want to be swimming, and I want to be hiking,
Yeah, all those good things. All
yeah.
those good things. Um,
Oh,
our new president at Mount Allison, president and vice provost, is from Newfoundland and Labrador.
that's right.
So I often joke that they can't have him back. We are keeping them, for as long as we can. So another strong connection, and of course, our chancellor is also from Newfoundland and Labrador. So we are well represented here at the university.
We're infiltrating.
We
But
are indeed, indeed.
I do want to say I did want to share one beautiful story before I
Of
let you
course.
go.
Oh no, no, yeah,
Um,
please,
I was at the top of the Great Northern Peninsula with Christopher Pratt. I just want to share this because I feel like this is
please
like
do, please do.
he was I was telling him I said to him, I'm such a perfectionist. I said, I'm so afraid I'm going to get everything wrong. And he drew this, it was a drawing of, like, it was the arc of perfectionism, he called it. But he said basically he said, you try to get to here, you try to get to here. He's drawing this arc, and he goes, um, but you won't. And someday you want a piece of cherry pie, and someday you gotta, like, deal with some emails, he says. But then you realize, and he says, I realized that the beauty of what I was doing, the beauty of art, the beauty of life really is the buzz in the studio, the people that surround you,
Mm.
that daily beautiful buzz. And I just wanted to say that's what art is for me, and that is what Manet was for me. And I wish for others as well that they also celebrate that beautiful community that exists there.
Oh my goodness, that's lovely. That daily, beautiful buzz at Mount Allison, um, or in life, or wherever you are. But I still feel that all the time.
Beautiful.
come into work. I walk into the student center sometimes, and you can just literally feel the buzz of all the different activities, no matter what anyone is doing or learning or creating, or you know, that's a wonderful way to frame it. I think it's really cool. Well, unfortunately, our time is at an end. Mireille Eagan, thank you very much. Thank you for everything you do at Mount Allison. You're a very engaged alumna, and we are very proud of you also. Whenever we see your name published anywhere, we get kind of Google alerts all the time about different things that our alums are doing or publishing or creating or whatever, and your name's often there. So makes us very proud.
Oh my God, that blows my mind. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you taking the time. This was a lovely conversation.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
A sincere thank you to the executive producer and director of our podcast, Kay, who is the quadrant intern at the Alumni Engagement Office. A sincere thank you to them, and especially to the fine folks at CHMA FM Radio who have made all of this possible by allowing us to use their facilities here on campus.
Mount Allison strives to be a safe, respectful, and welcoming place for people of all genders, diverse sexualities, gender identities, and gender expressions through education, programming, support, and advocacy. We prioritized upholding, maintaining, and honoring that environment during the creation of this podcast.